Should I start with you, Sabrina?
I suppose so. Okay, so I'm Sabrina Hughes. I have been in the business 3 years in September, so I'm still kind of new. A lot of I do open houses a lot, and then my sphere, I really just kind of connect with people. I do a lot of like volunteering with my kids' stuff and networking. So a lot of my business is just like people that I've made relationships with along the past few years, and I've actually only lived here 6 years, so it's pretty good that you keep, just build your relationships. That's your most important thing.
Okay, Tim.
My name is Tim Moyers, and I've been doing this for a little over a year now, and I would say 90% of my business comes from open houses.
Very good. Short to the point.
Yeah.
Scott.
I'm Scott Ravella, and this is year 4 here at Keller Williams Seminole, about 2 years. And the majority of my business started with open houses because as an individual agent, I didn't have listings to start with. So I did open houses back to back for a very long time and basically built my business on it. It's a great way to find and start business. So.
Tim.
It depends if I advertise for that open house. If I do some Facebook ads, and typically budget maybe $25, and I'll do that maybe a day or two before, and run that only if I'm farming that specific area. So if the open house that I'm doing is not in the area that I want to farm, I typically won't do Facebook ads for that. So.
That's it?
Yeah.
Facebook ad? Okay.
Scott.
If I'm doing an open house for my listing, then it's kind of incorporated in all the listing marketing, the just listed, the just sold card, the just listed cards, spending money on some Facebook advertising depending on the price point, about $50 roughly. I mean, not much. Brokers Open is another type of open house we do. We spend about $75, and we usually offset that cost through sponsorship. So that's even though this is an open house forum, we consider Brokers Open as part of the open house process. So that's we spend a little bit more money on that. But it's more about the time than it is about the dollars that you spend. Whether that's circle prospecting or door knocking around the listing, those are the things that make the open house more effective.
I have a question.
Sure.
The MLS you have over here, is there a section where you can put in there open house that then generates to Zillow and everywhere all over the world? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And you also, when you post your open houses, you do want to go ahead and make sure those get syndicated. If depending on, and previously with Zillow, as an example, anything that comes through the MLS will typically wash over that and change it. But we still go out there and make the change, just to make sure it's out there sooner rather than later. We don't want to rely on syndication when it's, especially if we're getting down to a short window. If we have less than 3 or 4 days, we want to make sure that Zillow is up to date right away. And
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and things like that, and Craigslist is another. Those things don't cost you anything, but it's activity based, so it's more time than money. So as you do those posts on Facebook, and if you do free ads or if you do Craigslist postings, or we try to get out there as many ways as possible.
Do we want to jump to question number 4 since we've kind of touched on it, about how you market the open house? So, Scott, since you've kind of already gone, is there anything else you want to add to marketing?
Signs, lots of signs,
100%.
branded signs, because people will start to see your signs out in the world and start associating your name with real estate. It gets you in there. You become a default name when they think real estate. They start thinking about you. 15 to 25 signs, depending on where it's at and how much it'll bear. On the beach, you do 15, 25 signs, are going to take you away in cuffs. But if you're inland somewhere, hit every major intersection that you can within close proximity and try to bring people in as much as possible. Get them out there first thing in the morning with 1 to 4 or 1 to 3 or whatever your time frame is. Or if you're really mean, you just put a rider on your sign and open house signs everywhere, and then people have to drive all the way to the house to realize, oh, it's not till 1 o'clock.
Tim.
I do a lot of them on the beaches, and so, and Scott's right. They'll take your signs or call you or harass you or chase you. I've been chased once, but
I got followed back to the town.
Yeah, the trick trick with that is, when I'm doing it on the beaches, I'll typically put the signs out maybe just an hour or 45 minutes before, as close to the open house as possible. Then they're not out there long, and by the time somebody calls or complains about them, of course you pick them up right after your open house. They've only been out there for 3 hours or so, and so it's not going to be as big of a problem. Also,
I think it's a little easier on the beach too, because you have Gulf Boulevard's the main artery, so
yeah,
people have to drive by your sign.
yep.
So that's great.
Who's taking the signs?
The city. Yeah, the city will take
And
them.
they're working
municipalities,
on the weekends, Sundays and
Yeah,
Saturdays.
somebody
taking
from the
signs.
city, sometimes the police will take them, sometimes if it's in front of a condo or
You're
sometimes
not allowed
association.
open house signs.
Yeah, they'll take them.
You're allowed a certain number. Well, there's restrictions on every municipality. So I think Reddington Beach was, you're allowed 2 signs for an open house, one in front of the house, I guess, and one off of Gulf Boulevard. I mean, that was never gonna happen in my
Yeah.
book.
Oh, yeah, I've
That
been out
was
at least
5 or
15
10.
times.
It's like-
So they take one of your signs. I mean, it's still worth, the leads that you're getting.
Right.
Just do it and play ignorance.
For children.
This
Why-
is being
I ne-
recorded, so you can.
I
no
never
longer say
asked.
anything.
You don't ask, and that I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know your policy.
We advance by begging for forgiveness instead of asking for
City of St. Pete is 4, we found that out when we had 17, so.
See, don't tell me that. I don't want to know
Really?
this stuff.
Is there anything else you do?
It's all about enforcement.
For marketing?
I think one of the big things is just getting out in the neighborhood, and, if you're scared to door knock or go out and meet the neighbors, don't be. It's a different conversation when you're inviting them to an open house.
Yes.
Versus,
That's the best time. to
hi,
do it.
I'm your local realtor. They
Yeah.
don't really care that you're the local expert. They care that the neighbor's house is for sale, and now they can get all nosy and go check out
Most
the
of the time
house
they
that
love
they've been, yeah, exactly. Most of them really want to hear about it, and you have an opportunity to find the Mildred or the Margaret or the busybody in the neighborhood. And that is your conduit for all sorts of intel, especially if that's an area you want to farm.
Yeah.
When do you do that in relation to the open house itself?
Usually day before, or 2, depending on when you're gonna hold the open house, or when you have the time or the permits.
Yeah.
I think it's better, if you're gonna actually door knock, then it's better to do it on an early weekend day, or like a Friday evening. Because you want people to be home when you're knocking.
So, I do a lot of signs too, and I like circle prospecting. I'm one of those crazy people that likes to talk to people on the phone that I don't know. So I'll literally just go to the tax records and type in the neighborhood and just call everybody in there and invite them to, I do flyers, I like door knocking. I actually did a Bold 100 in October. This is probably the best one I've done. And it was the Seafood Festival weekend at John's Pass. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do 100 people I wanna talk to about this open house. So I went into all the businesses and just talked to all the people that work there. I didn't want to talk to people that don't work here. I was like, I want to find the locals. So I got 3 or 4 buyer leads just off of doing that, and then my open house went under contract that next day. It was just mass production because it was a great price. I was talking about the $15,000 down payment assistance and so just talking to people. So yeah, door knocking.
For those of you who've never heard of a Bold 100, can you explain that to them?
A Bold 100 is where you talk to 100 people in one day about real estate. So it took me probably 6 hours, I think, to do that between John's Pass, and then I door knocked the entire neighborhood after I did John's Pass to get all my 100.
So you guys aren't just putting signs up and hoping people show up?
And I do
Pray.
Facebook too. I do Facebook ads.
Very good.
When you put the signs out, I'd go on Google Maps or something beforehand, and look at the traffic patterns, where the major businesses are, and the whole idea is to direct flow into your open house. Even think about, be aware of, okay, so this is, they're gonna have to make a right-hand turn here, so I'm gonna put actually not just 1 but 2 signs out there. One just at the corner, and then one, a couple hundred feet there, so that they have time to make that snap decision and turn into that. The whole goal is just directing flow right into your open house.
You also have the opportunity a lot of times to direct them the way you want them to go. So don't take them by the rundown 2 or 3 homes in the neighborhood. Take them the pretty way. Sometimes you have that option, especially where you have a good, a higher end neighborhood next to a lower end neighborhood, don't take them through the bad parts, get the good parts.
You guys
Take them
ever
around.
target local churches, like if you do it on Sunday and start leading them from church? Because I know a lot of people, that's
I've done
kind of
that.
what they do
I've done
on
that at
Sundays.
Pasadena. I've put extra signs where I know they're turning out from the church, but I've never gone directly to them.
I like to do like a Publix, the grocery store. If that's nearby the open house, I put like 2 or 3 signs just in there because people, they're getting their groceries, but maybe they on the way out and they want to stop by an open house. And I always ask everybody that comes in, how did you see the open house? Did you see the signs? Did you see it online? 9 times out of 10, it's the signs.
Yep.
Okay, so do you guys use the sign-in sheets? And if so, what information do you request? Any tips on getting people to actually sign in the right information? Any of you? You
Well,
start.
I'll start because I have Tim's answer. Because I got it from Tim. So we collaborate a lot in this office. I have a sign-in sheet, and I have multiple signs that say, sign in. There's one, as you walk in the front door, it says, welcome to our open house, please enter, or please come in and sign in at the register. When you walk in, the first thing that you see is a table like this, or smaller, and it's right in front of the door, and it is a sign-in sheet and another posted sign. The seller requests that all guests please sign in. And I don't get a lot of pushback anymore. And I'm standing there going, sign in please. And, asking them if they want something, because I usually have a case of water at the property. I'm with Sabrina, I don't do food anymore. I've wiped off too many chocolate fingerprints from little kids with, So, that's everybody, is amenable to a cold bottle of water. So I think that helps too when you're offering them something. But in Tim and I's conversation, we talked about how when you see a sign, you have a tendency to obey it. And it kind of plants this mental note that you should do it. And so the only people that are really averse to it are the ones that you really should watch.
Exactly.
I do a sign-in sheet, and I actually fill out what I want them to fill out because people are creatures of habit. So if they see your name, phone number, and email, then they're just automatically going to fill it in. So I always at least fill in the first line with somebody to make name, phone number, and email. And I also put like my flyers, but then I have like another flyer that I've started using it, and it says like 100% free buyer services. So they'll see that when they're signing in, because a lot of people don't realize that they don't have to pay for us, like on the buyer side. And so I have that there, and then I've been pushing that $15,000 bond flyer. So that's how I usually start getting them to talk to me. They'll see that flyer, and then they'll start asking about it. So like I've engaged them in conversation. I'm coming from contribution. And then they just like easily just sign right in. And then I saw something I thought was really neat, and I'm probably gonna order online in one of my Facebook groups last night. This girl ordered this like really pretty post, and she puts her iPad on it. So when they walk in, they have like this really pretty post, and then they sign in digitally on her iPad. I thought that was genius.
Oh, wow.
I've heard that helps.
Looks
People
fancy.
want to sign in because they get to touch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, yeah, Scott, basically, that's my methodology. And start engaging them in conversation while they're signing in, because then it becomes an automatic function. I've noticed that if I just wait for them to sign in, they'll think about, well, do I want to put my email or do I want to? If you start engaging them in conversation while they're doing it, they'll just automatically, and they'll fill out everything. They'll put out, oh, I'm going to buy in 6 months and this and this and this, and I have all this information there. And I didn't even ask them, oh, what, because I started the conversation. And they're focused on that conversation with me. How did you hear about the open house? So you guys driving around looking at homes today? Oh, yeah. And they'll do it every time. And you'll get, 70% of the people will sign in and give you good information that way. It absolutely works. And then I have a big A-frame sign.
I just want to say something real quick. You should all be writing that down, because engaging them in conversation, asking them questions, not telling them about the house, not telling them about the neighborhood, not telling them about you, asking them questions, they're gonna think about that versus signing in, and you're never gonna have a problem
Yeah.
having somebody sign in again.
What you need to know is that this open house, you're not there to sell them that house. That's irrelevant. The marketing is gonna sell the house. The MLS is gonna sell the house. You know, the other agent is gonna sell the house. You're there, the sale there for you is to get an opportunity to be their buyer's agent or listing agent, you know, if they're looking to also sell their house. So the conversation should be tailored around that. You know, I'll lead in with a question. So have you guys been looking on the beaches very long, or have you been looking, you know, wherever that is very long? And oh no, actually, yeah, we've been looking. Okay, so when do you play? And you start that conversation, just getting little nuggets of information as you go along, and tailor your conversation as you get all those little nuggets of information from them. Know the inventory around the property. That's absolutely, don't just print it out. That helps, but know at least 4 properties that are comparable to that house that are within the area, because they said, oh, you know, if you can tell that they're not really into that house that you're looking for, I said, actually, there are 3 other properties that are similar to this that I think you might like, and if you're able to rattle out information about it, oh, you really know this area, and then you have them.
Yep, know it like you live there, like
Mhm.
you would your own neighborhood.
Yeah. Also, in the conversation that I have with them, I ask them, you know, would you like another set of eyes? What I can do for you, if these properties aren't something that you like, I said, what I can do for you, I know the area very well, and I think I have a good idea of what you're looking for. If you want, I can send you a few other properties that I think you really might be interested in. Oh yeah, okay. So then you send that to them, and I always promise them, people hate being on an automatic drip or something like that, and they're almost always unsubscribed. And I tell them, I'm not going to put you, unless you want, I'm not going to put you in any automated system. Everything that I send you is from me that I've handpicked for you based on our conversation of what we had.
Now, Tim, are you using the concierge setting on MLS for that?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so concierge, you can set up on the MLS like a whole map area. So you know that these people are looking for, you know, 3-bedroom on the beach with a boat dock, and they want it has to be a 2-story, it can't be a 1-story. So you map out that on the MLS using the concierge service, and anytime a new listing comes up in that, it will, on your dashboard, will show, oh, you know, there's a new listing on this, so you click on that, and it's connected to a person's name, and you can approve that before you send it out. And it's important that you do that you approve it before you send it out, just so that it doesn't send stuff that's not relevant to the customer. Because I've been burned and I've lost customers that way, and they get upset. They're like, why are you sending me this? This is not what we talked about, and they'll unsubscribe, and then you've lost them.
And you're probably the only one doing that, because the other agents have probably put them all on different drips, so that's setting you apart.
Yep.
You ask them at the open house if they've been working with another agent?
No, I don't care if they've been working with another agent, because I'm the expert there, and I'm going to try to answer their questions at all. And if they're working with an agent, hey, maybe, you know, their agent that they're working with or talking to isn't going to provide that high level. To me, it's not
We
relevant.
do run the risk of interrupting a relationship.
Well, then that other
Business
agent wasn't
relationship.
doing their job,
Okay.
servicing. If they're engaging me there and they're asking me these questions, then the other agent's not doing
The
their
way
job.
I handle it is and I'm a real estate broker for 20 years. I've sold more homes than any other human in Brevard County, almost 1,600 at this point in 20 years. What I do is I say, are you working with another agent? If they say, well, we have been, I go, well, if you find that you're not happy with them, or if you decide you would like some, you know, excellent service, I'll let them know I've sold more homes than any other human. Be happy to help you, you know, like that. That way you don't run the risk, because it can be tricky, you know, if
Yeah.
another agent has a whole paper trail of emails and maybe a contract they've written, and suddenly you take them, you go write an offer, and whoa, wait a minute, you know. I mean, you got to be a little careful with that. I like your cocky, I don't care attitude. That's great, you know. That's
Yeah,
that's
but
important.
if they're not getting what they need from the other. If they're not searching hard enough or they're not, you know, staying on top of things, I mean, it's in their best interest.
I got my real estate license. I've been an investor since I was 19, out of sheer frustration with agents. Okay, I worked with over 100 of them before I got my license.
Most of them are late.
Yeah, I understand, yeah. There's a lot of good agents out there. There's a whole lot of very bad ones.
So the
Absolutely.
disclaimer I'm gonna put in here is if they are working, they've signed a buyer-broker agreement, obviously he's not gonna breach that relationship. And he's not gonna step on procuring cause toes, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanna make sure we.
They tell you right away. They say they'll say, oh, I'm working with, and
So and so,
if
yeah.
they're actually they'll say it. They'll
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm working with the Redmonds down here on Redmond. Oh, that's great. I said, just, you know, denote that in your sign-in, and, you know,
Yeah.
I'll know not to follow up, and it's fine.
Or follow up with the Redmonds.
Yeah.
The challenge we have, and I think it's probably more recent history than the time that you've been in, is we have so many people who go to an open house. They get a realtor's card. The realtor engages them, they get them on a sign-in, and then they send them a list of properties. And then when they're asked in an open forum without any rapport, are you working with an agent? Oh, yes. Well, what's their name? Well, they don't even remember because it's just somebody who's sending them emails.
So
It's
you
not
didn't
they're
ask.
actually
I wasn't
working
asked,
with an
yeah.
agent.
I don't
Yeah,
ask.
absolutely. I always ask, and I think it's more of, the question is more of, have you hired an agent? Because that's more of a definitive question than, are you working with one?
Yeah.
Because almost all of them know one.
Right.
And they'll say that
Yeah,
that's the
everybody
person
knows an agent.
to push you off, you
Yeah.
know? Because,
Yeah.
hey, I just met you, you're coming on a little strong, but, you know, at the same time, you kind of want to know where they stand. And
Yeah.
if you ask them if they've hired an agent, then they'll say, especially if they're working with somebody, you know, in a formal way, then they'll present that.
Yeah.
But, you know, having that mindset about, you know, that we're self-regulated, we have to do that. We have to be
Yeah.
respectful of other people's
Well, if
rights.
they do say they are, then I say, oh, who are they, you know?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, yeah, I know him. you
Yeah,
know,
and
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
in your regard, I mean, you probably know them all anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
so
no.
many new ones, so.
No,
Oh,
I
they come and go,
have
don't they?
I have a perfect example, and you know, this is something that I've closed. So these people came in my an open house in Greenington Beach, and you know, I just discovering what they're looking for, just talking about, you know, what their needs are, and they were looking for a Gulf front house, and they said, if you find us a good deal, let us know. But I got to that part of the conversation, because they did say, oh yeah, we kind of have an agent looking for us. And I said, would you like another set of eyes out there looking for you? I said, oh yeah, absolutely. So I said, I started, yeah, looking, you know, aggressively on that. Anytime that I saw something that might even be remotely of their interest, give them a call. Almost to the point where they kind of laughed. They said, oh my goodness, they said, yeah, you're starting to annoy us, but you know, I was after them. All that to say, I found them the right property finally, and it was a $1.6 million sale. Closed 4 weeks ago. And their buyer's agent before, who I definitely stole it from them. You know his name if I said it.
Okay.
But they said, and he's not with Keller Williams, but they said, you know, he wasn't responsible.
Yeah, yeah,
He did not find, they said, you found us what we
yeah,
needed.
yeah.
And I said, and this property that you sent us, we never got it from you. So, am I sorry for that? Absolutely not.
No?
I made a big sale for that. So that guy, you know, he was snoozing, so.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Do you guys want to add any more to that, or can I move on to the next?
Move
one?
it
And
right
then
along.
they'll just tell you they're working with an agent if you ask. I don't know. I don't usually ask. I try to engage them in conversation, and then if they bring it up, I'll even maybe ask them if they've been like looking at houses just to see if they're just saying it, because they will. They don't want to like talk to you sometimes. So you just have to really engage them in the conversation and come from value. You have to bring something of value. I love another set of eyes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and you use I've heard many times people use the example of when we go to a store, and if you're offered, like you go to Home Depot, I'm obviously in Home Depot to buy something, but I don't really want to talk to that person yet.
Yeah.
So your default is, no, I'm good, I'm just looking. No, I'm not. I came there to buy something, and it's when I'm ready is when I'm going to engage in that conversation.
Yeah.
So a lot of times asking them that, you're giving them the out right away to stop talking to you.
No. Well, what's the official stats? I think it's 70% that come through an open house are unrepresented.
Mhm.
So 70% of the time, they're not really working with somebody, and they're just trying to, you know, blow you off if they say they are. So, then also, as you're giving them the whole grand tour, like you say, so this is a 3-bedroom. Are you looking for a 3-bedroom? Oh no. So I'm taking notes and then by the time to end the conversation, you don't have to do an interview or what do we call it, an ignite?
Our consultation.
I've already done it for them, and they don't even know it. I know exactly what they want, and I put that into my the CRM. And so I said, you know, at the end of it, I said, I have a really good idea of what you're looking for, and I already have a few properties in mind. I'll rattle them off. I said, if you'd like, I'd love to send you these properties and some others that we would love that. And I said, and if you want to look at them, we can set that up, and I can do that for you. If they didn't sign in, that's a great hook at the very end, where you say that you can get their email address at the end where
Or verify it.
Or verify it.
Yeah.
Or verify it.
Yeah.
Because they may have given you, you know, something
I've asked that before.
not entirely, is this the best email for you? Oh no, my real one is way better.
Yeah.
But that's funny, but you don't get to that until you have the opportunity to add value or offer them some value. And you don't know what to add or what to offer until you've had the conversation and built rapport. So that's all really good.
So one of the questions that they wanted me to ask you guys is how many hours are you doing the open houses? Are they on particular times and days that you notice work better? And do you do them on holidays?
Yes.
Would you like to expand on that, please?
For my first year, as you guys have seen, you know, almost every weekend I was doing the open houses because I mean you never know who's coming by. I typically do the Saturdays on 1 to 4. I've just played around with the times, and I feel like I get way more traction in the afternoon than doing it like a 11 to 1 or something like that. And then I always leave it open-ended. I mean, if you feel like it's picked up right then, don't leave. I've definitely got something, you know, at 4:30 where I get 3 more groups of people come by, and somebody ends up buying because, you know, they came at 4:30. So just, you know, kind of feel that out. I actually I leave the table as the last thing that I do. So I'll go out and collect the signs. I put 2 8-foot flags up. I take those down. I take out, you know, the table's a lot because someone could come in as you're tearing down, and then, you know, they're interested in looking, and then they can still sign in. So don't be late to your open house because there's definitely always somebody that shows up right on time or 5 minutes early.
Yep. I do Saturdays and Sundays usually. I like 1 to 3 on Saturday, and then Sundays usually 2 to 4.
And do you do them on holidays?
I have not done them on holidays, but I'm gonna start considering that because I actually had some friends that I was working with, and like we went out on Mother's Day, so I just didn't see my kids all day, and we put an offer in, and some of the agents were like, "You really want to show it on Mother's Day?" Yeah, I have people that need to move next month. Like that's a serious buyer if they're out on a holiday.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
That's a good point. You might not get the traffic, but you'll definitely get a serious buyer.
Yep.
Or just somebody who has nothing better to do. And that's my comment on holiday open houses. It really depends on the holiday. You know, Father's Day and Mother's Day, not so much. Memorial Day, Labor Day, Groundhog's Day,
Thanksgiving, you know, because it's usually on a Thursday, right? So you do it on that. I did it on Friday and Saturday.
Definitely banking around holidays is good, especially
Yeah.
the majors, because people are off during those time periods.
Yeah.
And that's when most people work and they can't go to these open houses, and they take their weekends to do relaxing things.
Yeah.
Stressful home buying.
And we live in a vacation area. You know, the people are in here visiting family, and they're looking for something to do. So yeah, you should definitely make yourself available.
I'm of the same mindset. Saturday, Sunday, 1 to 4. I like to keep the same time because my signs say today 1 to 4. So that way when I put them out, it's the same time of day.
Yeah, Sunday is
It's a little challenging when they don't say that, and or they do, and it's 11 to 2. I get confused. People get confused pretty easy.
But yeah, Sunday later in Sunday is good because I think myself included, lots of people still go to church.
Mhm.
And so if you're doing it at 11 to 1, I mean, you're missing all that, prime church traffic, so you should be doing it at, 1 to 4 or 2 to 4 or something like that. Because, they've, after church and they go to lunch, I mean, as they're driving home, and I've had that, they were like, oh yeah, we were just coming from lunch after church and we just decided to stop by. Definitely had that conversation.
And be flexible on your time too, because like Tim said, you might have a string of people, usually you do, at the last minute. And I usually time block an hour before, an hour after, just to get ready and just to wrap up. And that's the best time to do your follow-ups. So whatever you do to follow up, is that a good segue?
That's a great segue, thank you.
So that gives you the opportunity to do immediate follow-up for that stuff that you need to do. So if you put them in a CRM, which I highly recommend, or you write handwritten notes, which I also recommend, that's an opportunity to do it then when it's fresh in your head, and it gets out the next day, and then they're impressed by your responsiveness. And then I always try to follow up the next day or the next week with a phone call if I've gotten their information.
Are you receiving their addresses on the sign-in sheet, or are you just straight stalking?
Well, yes. Yeah, I'm gonna get creepy all over you, especially if you give me an address. It's very simple.
Yep.
You just look in the county tax record for their last name, and you can usually extrapolate all of it by, oh yeah, they were with Laura, and that's the wife on the deed. I mean, you can figure out a lot in a few minutes, just to kind of understand where they're coming from, and usually I've had a conversation. I didn't say this on the sign-in sheets because I wasn't thinking of it. I was really thinking more of the sign-in, but I use a matrix that I include with the sign-in. So I have the sign-ins numbered, and then I use a separate sheet for my notes.
Yes, I do the same thing.
I do. Did I get that from you? See, I say it like I did it, like I made it up. I got it from my R&D
All Scott's
department.
ideas are mine.
Only the good ones. And that way, I'm taking notes, and I have a way to reference it. I used to try to write on the sign-in sheet, and then someone else would walk in, and then they'd be like, oh here. And they'd be looking at, oh, Barb's got 3 kids. And
That's why I bought this. You just carry this around with you.
Yeah, don't use a clipboard. Isn't that another?
Yeah,
Timism?
no,
That was a Timism. Yeah, that was a clipboard.
This is good. I mean,
Unless you're gonna have
you're
one of
like
those
a
orange
consultant.
vests, then you can have
With a
one.
nice pen.
With a nice pen.
What do you-
that was
what
so
do you-
weird.
He uses a portfolio.
Yeah, something like this, and I usually
When he's just a matrix, just another sheet of paper numbered,
Okay.
corresponding to the sign-in sheet. So the sign-in number 1, I'll have number 1, and then lines to write my notes. So my notes about my conversation with them. So then I go back and do my follow-up. I have something referenced.
exactly.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to remember it.
Would you have a buyer's consultation blank sheet in there, just to?
You're doing it as
You're kinda
you're
doing
doing
it,
it
yeah.
as you
But
talk to
I
them.
just like
That's
for
not a bad
for
idea.
a reference point.
That's not a bad idea.
For some,
Absolutely.
just to kind of jog your memory of,
Yeah.
did I get this one from, maybe on the left side?
Start filling one out. That's a great idea. And that starts the file for that buyer. I want to get a little bit more commitment before I create too much paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that at least
understood.
gives me a basis for follow-up. But I know you like forms, so.
Tim,
I
what
should
do
be
you
more
do to follow up on those who've registered?
Usually, best case scenario, it just depends if I have anything going on after that. I like to send them an email that evening. Thanks for stopping by my open house. Kind of gauge your conversations. If somebody looks like they're looking immediately, or we're in town for a week, do your homework that night. Prepare them a list of homes that they're interested in. Send them that, hey, I did some initial digging. I think these might be of interest to you. And then I always ask for feedback. In order for me to help tailor my search better for you, if there's something that I missed or you don't like what I'm sending you, please tell me. I will not get offended by this. It just helps me serve you better. And I get a lot, feedback. Actually, we're not looking here. I want something that needs to be over 50 feet of water frontage. That's out. And I didn't get that in my conversation, but now I won't eliminate anything that doesn't have that. So, if they're not like right away, usually by Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest, we follow up with them, just, depending on your schedule. I know, sometimes it's not realistic because you're doing showings on Sunday or something like that. And then you've got family stuff or whatever. So, as long as you follow up by Wednesday at the latest, you should probably be okay.
Sabrina, do you do anything different?
No, I'll usually send them an email and I always follow up usually the next day. I'll call them the next day and then just gauge it, like you said, based on how immediate they are. They're not immediate, you just every couple of weeks or something, but if they're pretty serious, I mean, I'll call, if they're real serious, I'll call them as soon as I leave here and just clear the rest of my day.
Yeah.
Because you get those people.
Done that?
Yeah,
Definitely.
I've shown right after an open house. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Took a listing right after that.
So let me ask you, when you first got started and you didn't have your own listings, did you strategically find listings to do, or do you just, whoever gave you open house, you did it?
Strategically, you pick where you want to farm. Now, of course, if you can't find where you want to farm, then yeah, you take whatever you can get. But definitely, and two, before I ask somebody, you can look what listings. Our office, it's all in the MLS, and you can see whose listings is what. And somebody may not have time to do that open house. You're like, oh, they have a listing somewhere where I want to farm. So then, you ask that person to build a relationship with them.
I do farm, or I like to stay in the sweet spot, the 200 to 400 range. So I'll pick an area that I like that's in that range that turns fast. And new stuff. I want to hold something like that just came on the market. Like I don't want something that's been on the market,
Yeah.
A month. I want something that like came on Thursday and I'm going to hold their open house for them on Saturday.
Yeah, that's when you get the most traffic, too,
Yep.
definitely.
Gosh,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
when you first started,
Well, when I first started, okay.
yeah, now you have listings,
yeah.
so
No, I
I'm assuming
had,
you market them.
It was hunger, it was whatever was there. I did 20 on a $145,000 house that I never sold. It wasn't my listing, but the agent obviously didn't want to hold it open. Didn't tell me why, 'cause, I got traffic, I got my first deal out of it, so, yeah, it really, I wasn't quite as selective as Tim. In hindsight, I probably should have been, but I broke my teeth on that deal and, learned how to do open houses from there, so. Second home that I held open was over 600 and sold it in the open house, so I was hooked, obviously. So, any and all the above.
Lauren, you have a
Has
question?
any of you ever done an open house for an agent at another brokerage?
I have called before and they haven't let me.
Usually,
But
the
it's funny because their
broker-
team leader calls you immediately and she tries to recruit you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a go-getter. You're way more alive than all my agents. Over here, bring some of that energy.
Yeah. No, I've tried to ask before, but no, I haven't.
Most of
It's tough, yeah.
Most of your open homes, are they vacant open homes, or are they where people are living in them?
Vacant's the best. I love
Yeah.
that better because then you can stay later if you want to.
Yeah, you have more
Do
flexibility.
you worry about professional thieves coming through occupied homes?
You don't worry about anything really. It's a concern, and that's one of the reasons why I think we're really strong on signing in and getting a direct eye contact with someone.
Yeah.
That's one of the things the table does. It stops them at the door, and they have to engage you. And most people that are trying to case someplace for nefarious reasons, they don't want you really paying attention to them very much because they don't want you to remember them. So, it's the vacant houses that I do are mostly investors that, the house is staged, and,
Those are the best.
those are, hey, come on in, check it out. It's like, case it all you want, you're not gonna come back here and make anybody unhappy. But more to your question about open houses for other people, you can do open houses for sale by owners.
I've done that.
That can be effective.
I've done that before, and I've turned FISBO because I did an open house for them. They're like, wow, you've done so much for me, and I'm not even listed with you. A couple weeks later, hey, you know what? This is not working out. Why don't you just list it? Chase went with me on that appointment. We walked in there like, where do we sign? It's like, okay, yeah, here you go. Here's the form. And I came ready to do my presentation. Nope, didn't need to. I will say, if you do somebody else's open house for them, I would, just as a courtesy to them and to show your value to that other agent, even if they don't have time for it, make sure you ask for feedback on the home, and I would, write that down and type it out and send it to them. Before they'll ask you, but I would, before they're even asked, and I usually text them, hey, we had 9 groups come today, we had 10 groups come today. These are some of the negative things that they said. Some of them are not okay with the price, but give them a lot of information because it shows value to that other agent, and then they might start asking you, hey, I have a good one, I can't handle it, nobody on my team can. If you want it, we can, and then they'll start asking you.
And I have a card like that my title agency created for me, and it's like open house feedback. So they go in and ask them the time frame. It's a sign-in pretty much, but then they can kind of rate each room, and then they can tell you if the price is too high or too low. So for like your sellers, when you have listings, it's so nice to, if you have the cards, you can just give them all the cards and see, this is like what they're saying, especially if you want that price reduction. They think it's overpriced, this is what they think it's worth. And these are the buyers coming through to tell you. And it's really pretty, it's all professional.
Van Dyke had something like that.
Yep, Charlie made me something. I gave him.
So Lauren, was it Lauren? Asked about, or no, it wasn't, I'm sorry. About worrying about people stealing. Do you prepare, when people live in the home, do you ask them to prepare a certain way to show the home, like put away medications?
Yeah,
Can you go
put
into
away
that a little bit?
valuable, don't leave,
Medication.
cash laying on the dresser, a lot of jewelry out on top of dressers, and I want to put those in the closet, and that goes for the whole showing period. That goes for the whole listing period. You don't want, that's more of a prep for listing than prep for open house, because they shouldn't have that stuff out anyway.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I bet. All right, the good thing is go to like one of these, what do they call, like Tuesday morning or Home Goods or whatever. Just get some baskets and give them to your lister, your sellers, and say, look, here's a basket for the bathroom, here's a basket for the bedroom, and put all the stuff in here that, for a showing, you're gonna throw everything in this basket and put it on the top shelf in the closet. Or, that way they can kind of get things ready a little faster. Some people, they might need 2 or 3 baskets per week. Oh, got one of those today.
It's not as bad when an agent goes to show it, because then you know who that agent is, and if something's missing, well, hey, But with open houses, you don't know who these people are.
It's true.
And I remember seeing the same couple, and she had the big purse, and I followed her around. I'd see them all. I saw them for 6 years going through Satellite Beach, looking at open houses. Like, yeah, I know why you're here.
Yeah.
But the other thing with some of the more upscale homes, and where they have some nice little knickknacks here and there, I've told people, you sign in, and if they say, well, we don't want to, I'm sorry, the owner is not allowing you in their house. Because if they're not willing to sign in, they're not going to buy the house. I don't know that I want them as a client anyway, So, it comes to a certain point where it's like, I'm just asking you to sign in.
Do any of you have any questions that we have not addressed? We have 15 minutes. None?
I have another nugget.
Go ahead, Tim.
So, I don't know, if you guys do open houses right now, does anybody you kind of want to follow them, right? Like as you're, just to answer questions or try to get information for them. I sense, and I've been told too, people don't like you to follow them around while they're looking around in the house. So, preemptively, a good way to address that is, as they're signing in and you're gathering some information. All right, are you ready? I'm going to give you the grand tour of the place. So now you're leading it,
Love that.
and so you're actually following them around, but this time you're giving them something by following them around. So okay, so this is the. Yep, this is the formal dining room, and I said, here we have some nice chair, and
Here's the kitchen. This
Yeah.
is a stove.
But you're giving them, some information, but then at the same time, as you're keeping an eye on them, and you're getting some useful information as you go. So
how do you break that away
Yeah,
when you
I said,
have multiple guests?
yeah.
How do
Well,
you manage that?
Okay.
Do I need to sit over there?
Well,
Since we have a pre-panel.
Yeah, how I handle it, usually, only a handful of times you'll get like 5 people show up at one point in time. Never leave the person that you're giving the tour with. After, you can kind of hurry it along a little bit, but then as soon as you're done with them, somebody's on their way, hey, I didn't catch, there's some other features of the house that I wanted to show you. Have you seen, actually, there's a solar panel outside, have you seen that? As a way to hook them back in and then, start that conversation. If you have the signs and everything like that, you'll be able to follow up later. You definitely won't be able to talk to everybody, and that's just the nature of the beast.
I think that's a good point too. You don't need to have 100 people come to your open house to be successful. That would be the most wretched open house ever.
Yes.
Because you probably wouldn't be able to engage with one person at one time. And you have to get that permission to follow up.
I've actually, at busy houses, people that were super interested stand there and wait for me to be done with the client. And those people are serious, so it's
a good point.
Yeah. But if they all come at the same time, you can do the tour. Or if they come in, I said, oh hey, I'm giving them a grand tour. You want to come with me, and then we'll just go to the other rooms.
Yeah, the next tour starts in 5 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
Please assemble over here.
But as you're giving that tour, you're gathering information about what they would want. So you say, I show them the kitchen. So here, we have gas stoves. Do you guys like gas stoves? You're trying to get an idea of what they're looking for, even in each room. And so you have way more information that you don't even need to do a needs analysis or anything like that, because you have it all just from in your questions and engaging with them. And they didn't even know that you had, you did a needs analysis with them. You're like, how do they know exactly what they want? It's boring.
And then a while ago, we were talking about selling propositions, and I know, Scott, you were big on asked me about my off-market property list.
Sure.
I know you were doing that, and you were thinking about doing that.
Yeah,
Has that gone anywhere?
I have a sign that's in, I put up, I use these 8x11 acrylic folding signs that stand up on tables, and one of them says, are you interested in investing? Ask for your free copy of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Another one says, ask me about my off-market property book. The reason that I do that is because a lot of times these agents or these people, these guests will say they're working with an agent, but they don't know what that means. They don't even know what we have to offer. So I create things that make there's some unique value. The off-market property book is a list of for sale by owners, expired, withdrawals, recently leased or 12-year-old or 12-month-old leased properties, things that might be something that can be brought to market. And it's not really a book, it's something that I put together for a client. So it depends on where you want to live and what kind of home you're looking for, what kind of condo. But it gets that engagement process started. And no one else is saying these things to them, and no one else is, and that's another hook is your agent willing to, put together an off-market property book for you?
Yeah, I haven't implemented that yet. I usually
There's
will
all
send
kinds of great
something
ideas.
if I talk to them and I have an idea and I know that there's one. Like I'll send them a FISBO or I'll tell them, hey, there's this property that's not on the market. Or when someone's pitching something in the office, so I keep those like top of mind, but I haven't made the book yet.
Well, I also use those comments like you just said. One of the things that realtors do is they pitch their listings, but they also pitch buyers' wants and needs. So we have an opportunity, usually 2 to 3 times a week, to stand up in a room full of other agents, 30, 40, 50 agents at a time, and say, I have a buyer and they need this. And what I do is I translate that to the potential buyer client as, if I'm working with you, I'm out there looking for a property for you. So I'm going to stand up in front of other realtors, and they're going to have property, because what happens is, let me back up a little bit. I preface all that conversation with, have you been looking on the market and tried to go see something and it's sold? Because everybody's having that same experience. And I say, well, when I work with a buyer, I go out and look for the property because I want to find it before it comes to the MLS, and this is how I do it. And then they go, oh. And if they're working with somebody and they haven't had that kind of a conversation, they don't really know what exceptional value is in our business. So they're just getting run-of-the-mill value, and then they realize, oh my gosh, there's somebody that's proactively looking for me versus just sending me XYZ out of the MLS. And the concierge part of that is even another value add that you can include and say, you know, I'm not just gonna send you everything that hits the MLS that fits your basic criteria. I'm gonna take a look at it, I'm gonna validate the area, I'm gonna validate the property based on what you've already shared with me that you want in a home. So, if you don't get enough questions out about the person where they're giving you information, you don't have the rapport to share at that level. So you have to kind of break that ice and get them to share, then, you know, share your value proposition without being pitchy or salesman. Do you have a question?
So, let's go to safety for a minute, and I know maybe two of you aren't really too concerned about that.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
But,
I think that's,
I mean,
that's
so
very
Tim,
rude.
I know you're really worried, Sabrina and Scott aren't, but, no, when you guys do you have like a safety, or Sabrina, do you have, because I know when I did it, I always had like a safe word with somebody who
Oh,
knew
yeah.
where I was at, so do you have anything like
Yes,
that?
my husband, I will call him, and I actually got that creepy text at my last open house that I did.
Oh, I'm so sorry, that's my burner phone. I didn't know that was you.
Crazy. Yeah, so my husband is the red folder. I told him if I ever call home and say I need you to go to the office to pick me up the red folder, like come and get me. And I'm usually pretty close by anyways, but I'm usually have my headphones on and I'm talking to him most of the time I'm in there. And like if I feel like weirded out or something, I'll just dial him. But I have stuff on me too to protect me.
You packing heat?
Sorry, I'm gonna be packing.
Scott, Tim, do you have anything like that?
No, I actually, I never thought of it. I mean, I always tell my family that I'm doing, you know, because sometimes they'll stop by or that, but I always tell them that, you know, I'm doing an open house. So there's probably some built-in safety there. But, you know, put it on Facebook as well. You know, it's marketing as well. Do a live event. Everybody knows, all your friends know. Sometimes they stop by.
Yeah. Very good.
So they also make flashlights that have tasers in them, just FYI.
So we have a couple more minutes. Do we have any other questions that we want to ask the panel?
Can we go back to when you don't have your own listings, such as myself, and, you know, to find those of you who can't do your open houses or would like other people. I know I found one, it was too late for last weekend, that I saw it, you know, on the support page that's, you know, I can't remember his name, Rich maybe, posted, but,
So
How
you
can
have
we
access
let-
to the MLS?
yes.
And I only say that facetiously because
No.
we haven't met and I don't know if you're brand new or not, but in the MLS you can see my office active listings.
Okay.
Go ahead and sort by active days on market. Find out which ones are new to the market and just reach out to those agents, whoever they are.
Okay,
It
great.
doesn't have to be anything that they're asking for, because some of them won't ask because they don't know.
Right, and that's
They
what I
don't.
was asking, I heard you say that, but I didn't catch the whole.
Yeah, or the Seminole support page, just constantly post out there and say, hey, I'm available. But I would be proactive and reach out to agents that have listings that need to be held open. And that's a good way to find them.
And do, I would do that after you hold the open house. Do the feedback, like,
Yes.
because then they'll start asking you to do their open houses for you. So.
Where nobody else wants to do the open house. Right. And it's not terrible, you can get business from there, but what a lot of times happens is you end up getting a lot of business from that one neighborhood and that becomes your neighborhood. And sometimes that's not a neighborhood that you want to be your neighborhood. So, you know, that's
Make
why I
it
say-
worth your while.
Right.
That's how I
And
get stuck
understand
in
you're
Orchard
gonna,
Village.
yeah, absolutely.
And
And understand you're gonna have visitors that are, you know, 10 to 20% below your price point for your
Yeah.
open house. So they're not gonna be all, you know, at the same value.
And go after for sale by owners, do open houses. for
Yeah, that
them,
was the
and
other
you'll
thing.
start
There's-
getting listings.
There's no line there.
Right.
There's nobody waiting to do those, you know?
Okay.
Those are easy to get.
Yep, and your script with them is, you know, I'm willing to do an open house for you, and any leads, you know, the value for you, any leads that come in that are interested in this house,
Right.
they 100% go to you. I'm not going to take any commission, but I'm going to do it at a high level.
Absolutely not. Don't do that.
No, it said but what I do, I said, any leads.
No commission. How dare you?
Any leads that come in that aren't interested in the house, this is where I make my money. If they're not interested in this house, in your house, then I'm able to help them to find what they need, and I'm going to make money from those people. And they're gonna appreciate that. They're gonna say, oh wow, you know, he's willing to help me for, you know.
You are willing, that's awesome,
you
because
don't
I
charge
wouldn't
them?
do that.
No, I don't do that.
I want 3% if I'm
Yeah, I
holding
mean,
it open and I get a buyer for them.
I mean, that's a whole different panel
Yep.
for sale by
Yeah,
owners.
but you usually,
But when you have
How
when you're
many-
marketing it for
let's
sale
be
by
honest.
owners,
That's
no, when
true.
you go to market
Yeah,
it,
they don't usually show up to
usually
buy
if
the house.
you're
yeah,
gonna
they
get
don't
an open
usually show up to
house,
buy the house, and you kind of because the other agents are gonna say that.
if they show up to the open house, or if you are able to do an open house for sale by owner, you should have a one-off commission agreement with them already, where they'll pay you 3% if you bring a buyer. That's just part of the process that I go through, so I wouldn't be holding an open house until then. But at the same time, you can give them the statistic and say, here's the deal. The value for you is you get your house exposed to the greatest number of people, and agents are gonna come too, you know, they're gonna bring buyers, because I'm gonna market it to other agents. And there's your value prop. You know, it's not that you're gonna do the work for free and you're not gonna represent a buyer that comes in and possibly buys that open house, but you're gonna expose their home to more people, potential buyers, and that has value.
Yeah.
And you're doing it without any compensation. You have no right to agree or ask for compensation if one of these other agents brings someone in. But if you find a buyer for it, you have an agreement to be able to get paid commission. And the value there for them is you're paying me 3%, but I'm going to be managing the whole thing. I'm going to be handling this in transaction as a transaction broker, and then you go into the what is a transaction broker conversation.
You lost me there. So if an agent brings in one of their buyers,
Yeah, I mean, you have no, if you don't have that as a listing,
Right.
but you have a one-off agreement, like, the one-off agreement is, I'll pay you a commission if you bring me a buyer. I'm not gonna list my house with you, but if you bring me a buyer, I'll pay you a commission. That's like the first step. I think that's great because that gives you inventory no other realtor has. Because now you have an agreement with that seller to, if you find a buyer. If you hold an open house, you're gonna market that everywhere, so you're gonna get agents that'll come in and with their buyers. So you won't be able to participate in that transaction.
right?
So that's where you're giving something for nothing.
So I would think that one-off would be more advantageous to the person listing, because if you didn't have that agreement with them and you weren't taking that commission, you may be more apt to shift them into another house, because
Definitely a great comment, and that's
So-
true, and there's many nuances to that because of,
I'm there to get buyers, not not to sell that
Right.
house.
Yeah.
You're
right,
probably
so if
not
you're
gonna
not
sell that
getting a
house.
commission, if you're not gonna get a commission from that seller to sell that house, what is your motivation to sell that house?
to get buyers.
Get buyers.
To get
He's-
buyers.
but, yeah.
To the
That's
seller.
why you're there.
To
You're
sell.
there.
I
It's a
understand,
storefront.
I understand that, I understand that. I'm saying, what is the motivation to the seller to
Exposure.
have you?
Exposure.
Okay.
You're helping them to sell their house, and it's costing them.
You're doing
nothing.
something that they don't want to do, they don't know how to do,
Yep.
and they think that realtors, you know, just,
Mhm.
they don't work for a living, so that's why they think it's so easy to sell their home themselves.
Right.
Right, but then they have crickets when they put it on the
Yeah.
market and they don't know why. And then you come along and say, well, let me hold your house open and we'll get
Yeah.
all this traffic in there.
But
There's
you're-
really no cost to them to do
Yeah,
that.